All right, we are back again with another episode. Again, I stopped counting because we've done so many so far, and it's just been nothing but a blast to have on coaches each and every time. As always, guys, remember hit that like, comment, and always subscribe button to help this thing continue to grow, taking this thing in the right direction. But you got myself, Coach Coop. We got my boy Jay, us old men, even though he don't like to admit to it yet, but I'm buying into it.
Uh,
We got another special guest with us this week, right? We got my boy Khrys Speed out of the UK, former rugby player, owner of Ronin Strength UK. He's doing Ronin Strength Hybrid, which is online and in-person training. He is doing Olympic style lifting. He's also training athletes. He is currently also competing in Olympic lifting while helping others compete at the Olympic lifting level. He was telling me a little bit before we got on air what all the different levels were. There's like 70 different competitions to go to within the UK because some reason the UK like to have a messed up system, which just goes to explain what it's like when you guys got Brexit. You know what I mean? They like to do crazy stuff, right? But also in the meantime, he is working on opening up his own gym, right? Which we'll get a little bit more into on how that whole process is going. But before we jump into everything, Khrys, how are you doing, bro? Just like mentally, physically, emotionally, and all that, because I feel like we always forget to ask each other, how we are, because we have to show up every day with a smile on and be the perfect person for our athletes or our people that we're working with, bro. We just want to know, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm enjoying things. I think that whole thing of checking in with each other because we take care of athletes and we're so involved in the coaching process. I think you also don't really take care of yourself that much. Whereas it's definitely gotten better over the last couple of years because I've tried to take kind of like note of that and be like, oh, you should probably take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't really take care of everyone else, can you? To be fair.
That's good, man. So, former rugby player, and now you're on the Olympic lifting side of things. But like, what got you into the fitness, the strength and conditioning fitness world? What started you in this?
The reason I went into Olympic lifting wasn't because it was like a clear-cut choice of I'm done with rugby, I'm going to start doing weightlifting. I don't know how it would have been for you two, depending on where you grew up and like where you played and who coached you, but you kind of just got shown power snatch, power clean, a few Olympic lifting like variations as part of your strength and conditioning. And I think I got shown the full list of snatch, clean and jerk by a guy called JD Bain at Bedford Blues Rugby Academy, where I think what was the coach he gave me? He basically saw that I could do the movements, went, oh, if you just catch it in a power and then just squat really fast, you'll be able to do the full lift. So you'll be able to lift more, you'll enjoy it more. That was literally it. And before that, I'm pretty sure everyone's had the same journey. I used to look at tnation.com and bodybuilding.com because a teacher at school just said, I don't know about lifting, so you need to go off research yourself. I think, what was the first thing I found? It was like, it wasn't even, it was Barry Sanders. And it was an old, what was it? It was like a New York Jets running back. I can't remember who it was. So they basically just talked about the lifts they did in training. And it was like, do power cleans, do some squats, do bench, do some bodybuilding, do some sprints and some jumps. And that was it. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just do that. So I learned how to do like power cleans by myself. And then as I kind of finished up with rugby, like getting into like my early 20s, I was like, oh, I'm not having as much fun with this. A few like casual weightlifting comps, like novice ones came up. So I went to one of those. I met my first coach, Mike Causa, and he just went, oh, you should do this again. So then I did it alongside rugby. Then I started in a few more comps. And as I started to get more into coaching as a job, because I wasn't playing at a high enough level to get paid to just play, then I slowly started competing more and started playing a little bit less, competing more, playing a little bit less, until it was like, I actually don't really play rugby anymore. I just lift and then coach other people to do it. So it's like a really like slow, almost like subtle change where it was just, oh, I actually don't play rugby anymore. I just do weightlifting. And that happened over about 2 or 3 years. So between like 22 and 24, I just slid across. But not like all at once. It wasn't like I stopped competing this year. I stopped playing this year and I started competing. It kind of just happened.
So I know for a lot of some of the other guys we had on it was like, all right, I got an injury, so I might as well just go into coaching, right? So like they just ended up starting coaching. For you, it's kind of like it just happened. You know what I mean? It's just like gradually, oh well, I'm not really enjoying rugby anymore, and I'm really enjoying this weightlifting and coaching side of things. And now you're doing Olympic lifting, but like Olympic lifting, how did you like when you were playing still, how did you see these two correlate together?
I always got told, because I think the time when I started playing rugby, when you could start being in like because it works differently to like American sports. Because American sports, I don't think there's an academy system, so you can't get into, let's say, an NFL team or an NBA team by getting on like a junior team for that club. You have to go through college or you have to go to Europe and all that stuff. in England, it can be a case of you can never go to school, never play the sport at school, but then you'll have academies where it's like, if you're under 20 or under 18, you could be on the Northampton Saints Junior Academy or the Bedford Blues Junior Academy, and that's the system that I went through. So my school was okay, but it wasn't great for rugby. It was solid, but it wasn't up there. So then I kind of did that, and then I think I just got told I was really short. So every time I went to a trial or I went to a game, I just thought, oh yeah, you're quite good, but you're really short. Yeah, you're actually not that big. You're quite small, so you're gonna have to do something about that. But that's the thing. Like, so I got in. I'm now like I work with normal people, and I get told that you're quite big, like you're quite large. It's quite intimidating. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not that big. Then like being like 5'8", 5'10", and like almost 100 kilos is quite big. But then all I know is that I played with people who are 6'2" and above, weigh 20 kilos more than me. So I'm just getting told, yeah, you're quite short. You should probably go to the gym so that you like don't basically get broken. So all I knew was that the stronger and bigger I got by going to the gym, I seemed to not get bullied as much. And then it got to a point where I could actually hold my own in games. And then I'd get kicked for teams just based on how I played because they weren't looking at me thinking, oh, are you gonna have to get hit a little bit too hard and then just be out? And to be fair, all of my injuries in contact, it was always through something weird, like the whistle's gone and someone's just plowed through my knee anyway, or like it was never through just being hit normally and then getting injured or getting knocked out. It was always something weird. So like the better I got in the gym, the more I trained there, the easier it got for me to play. That was the correlation I made. So I was like, oh, well, this training stuff makes me more robust and it makes me more capable, so I'm just going to do more of it. And then it just got to the point where eventually, because I enjoyed the gym stuff for what it was, and then I didn't enjoy rugby as much, then I was like, well, I'll just keep doing that stuff because I like that just as a means and an end to itself anyway. But it started off as, oh, if I can power clean more and squat more and I get a little bit bigger, like I can see like a kilo go up on the scale every couple of months, then I get better at rugby. And then it got to a point where I was like, oh, I actually just like the gym stuff anyway. I don't really care that much about rugby anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little less taxing on the body, you know, the gym stuff. I mean, you do still have injuries that come from doing it, but I mean, not the same as, you know, I mean, rugby and football is kind of similar. Just people just running into each other like idiots, and just trying to hurt the next person across from you. Right? That's pretty much what both of our sports are, you know.
Yeah.
But now with the Olympic lifting, like that's pretty complex, right? Like you're talking about hang cleans, snatches, jerks, like all these things that, you know, it's in the Olympics for a reason because only like really high level people can do it and do it with the heavy volume and heavy weight. Like all that stuff is pretty technically sound. How are you, you know, coaching this stuff and getting, you know, athletes and also just your people that you have that you're working with to understand these movements?
I think with the movements, it's a case of, I think they are very technically like complex movements. It depends on like what stage you're looking at them. Because if you look at like weightlifting as like how we would use them, like if we were still playing rugby or like with you two still playing American football, the more talented athletes get, the easier they'll find to pick it up. And if you're just using it as a tool to get better at your sport, it doesn't really need to be perfect. It just needs to be safe. So you need to do a power clean and look at a guy and be able to go, he's not going to break his wrist doing that. I don't care if he's swinging the bar out a little bit. He's not contacting the bar that well, but it doesn't really matter because you can do it safely. Whereas with weightlifting, it's like, oh, so if someone's contacting the bar a little bit low on their thigh when they do a power clean, but it's safe, well, if they contacted it higher, they might be able to clean 10 kilos more. So it's more when you get people on the onset, when like, they first come into the gym, it's just making sure that you make things as simple as possible and you try to layer the complex things on top as like they get better. So like you look at like some training systems like international training systems, like let's say I want to say either Romania or Ukraine. I might have this wrong, I can't remember which one it is, but they don't let you do anything from the floor for the first year or so. Everything's a deadlift, it's a pull, or it's a hang snatch or a hang clean, and then you jerk from rack. They make sure it's separate, so you work on these things to make it simple as possible. So then when you put it together, it doesn't feel as complicated. So it's like taking these movements which, when you look at them, they are simple. It's like just get it off the floor and go overhead in one motion, and then get it off the floor, get it to your shoulders, now get it over your head in one motion. Like it is relatively simple, but in terms of making it perfect, like making it as close to perfect as possible, it can be complex if you don't. It can be complex if you rush it. So if you make it and you try and make someone do like a snatch clean too heavy too soon, of course it's going to feel complex because it's a fast movement and it's supposed to be simple. So it's the same as I'm trying to think what a good example is. Like if you just understand how to kind of like, you know, do like a hard cut on your outside foot, once you have it down, you understand how to fake and how to shake your shoulders and throw a step across. You don't have to think about it. You just go, oh, well, I want that guy to get out of the hole and go over there, so I'm just going to throw him across. But you don't think about what you do with your shoulders and how you shake them across, where you throw your head, how far out you put your foot, and where, like, you know, how far over you're going to bring your chest. You just kind of do it because you practice it until it's simple. Then when you get in the game, and you've got a guy in front of you, you go, oh, well, I just need to move him across that way. So then you don't think, oh, I need to put this leg here, I need to bring my arm across, I need to keep the ball like really tucked in, I need to bring my head across to here and look that way. You just kind of do it. And weightlifting is kind of the same. And if you think about it, it's also a very easy, safe place to get into practice. Like, you get to do a sport on the same kit everywhere, the same 3 attempts on a snatch and clean jerk every single time, in front of basically the same 3 judges every time. So it's quite a safe place to teach people to do stuff. Whereas with like football, it's a case of if you think, okay, I've hit my gap, but someone just got blocked, well, then you've done the right thing, but the man, you've got to do something else. Whereas with weightlifting, if you do the right thing, most of the time, the right thing will happen. I think this is why it is complex, but only if you rush it. If you just take your time with it, then it's usually going to be fine, and people are going to learn the correct way.
What did your journey look like from competing rugby professionally to that transition from competing in rugby to competing in the Olympic space?
I think the main thing with rugby was, and there's a guy called I can never remember his first name. I can only remember his son's name. There's a guy called what's my coach's name? His name's Pricey. I can't remember his first name. We all just called him Coach Pricey. I remember he took the assignments and just said, no, you need to make sure you're enjoying like playing rugby for what it is, like just a game, because you're so concerned with making it like a career that I think you're not going to enjoy it. He used to give me loads of advice that I found really irritating because I thought he was having a go at me. Whereas now I look at it, it's like, actually, you were just getting annoyed because I was being stupid. So then I finally got to being a professional. I felt like you ever seen that astronaut meme? So one astronaut's looking at the planet and there's another astronaut that's come behind him. Like when I got to the top, when I finally got like paid to play at a club that wasn't maybe the best environment, it kind of felt like, oh, it's just the same as the amateur level, but just harder. And it's like, yeah, always has been. Like I thought, like, oh, you're going to get to be a professional, and it's going to do so much difference in the change. You're going to be so much happier. Then you get there, you're like, it's just much harder. You spend more of your time on it, and it hurts more. So if you don't enjoy it already, you're not going to enjoy it when you get to the professional level. Like there are some things that are better about being a professional player and a professional athlete, but there's also some stuff where like it's a trade-off. There's some stuff where it's so much worse. Like you're more likely to get injured, you're more likely to get bashed up. There's more pressure on because you're playing for money, and your coaches are being paid based on the result, not just on like, oh yeah, we just need someone to turn up and help everyone, warm up and go out and play. So once I got to that level, I was like, well, I don't really know how I can now make myself enjoy this, because I've spent so long being like, I just need to get to a professional standard. So when I got to a professional standard, like for however briefly, I kind of got to a point where I was like, well, I've kind of technically achieved my goal. I've got to a professional standard. I've played it, but I don't enjoy it. But then with weightlifting, I was like, I just enjoyed like with rugby, it's a case of if I wasn't being paid to play, however much we got paid, you could not convince me to get out of bed on Saturday morning if I didn't want to. Whereas in like weightlifting, if I had a shift at gym I used to work at 6 a.m. and I knew I wouldn't be able to train throughout my shift, I'd just get up at 4 a.m. and I'd max out in my living room by myself at 5 and have a great time. So like I was like, oh, I clearly enjoy one thing more. I clearly enjoy lifting. I don't really enjoy rugby. It was more just kind of like letting the identity as being a rugby player just die off, and then just being like, well, I'm going more into coaching and lifting. But it just took a bit too long for me to accept it, because I didn't really know that's what was happening. So I was like holding on to rugby because I was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. Because, subconsciously you're like, well, I'm a rugby player. I've happened since I was 14, 15. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you don't want to do that anymore. But then it's like, oh, but it's almost like I was waiting to want to do it again, and I just didn't. So then I just went and started competing with weightlifting because I genuinely found that more fun. Like I'd happily get up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, get 2 trainers down to London, do a competition, stay there for the holiday, talk to people and go back. Whereas the rugby is a case of, if one of my friends said, oh, I've got a tournament, it's in North Wales, do you want to go? I'd be like, no, not really. It sounds a bit far. But with weightlifting, it's like, not really, no, I don't really want to go. But that's the kind of sounds the whole weekend. Nah, weightlifting. Oh, do you want to go and lift weights in Manchester? We're gone from Friday to Monday. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll drive up there.
That's crazy. I mean, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like just thinking about, you spent your whole life saying that I'm a rugby player, right? And then that's been your identity, and now you're trying to figure out like what is next. But like you're venturing into something that you're actually enjoying and finding that, hey, this could be like my new identity, because we all as athletes get lost in like what we do and that becoming us. Right. And it's the same way in coaching now, right? Like you get into coaching, you're like, well, now I'm a coach, right? Like, and that's all like I know, but like there's so much more to what we do, because when you coach, you also end up being a little bit of a therapist at the same time too, because you got to help these people, mentally be prepared, mentally be strong. And like you're taking athletes to compete. Now, what are some things, that you deal with when you take athletes to compete, like on the mental side of things, and how do you help them overcome it?
I think with a lot of it, so we've got varying levels of people competing. So we've got some people where they've got into weightlifting and it's a sport they really enjoy because it's more just about their performance, but they're probably never going to go to nationals. They're never going to medal at an international. They're doing it purely because they love it. So with them, it's more making them not to put too much pressure on themselves, because it's like, it literally like, I actually sent one of our listeners is having a breakdown because she's going to nationals this weekend in abroad. It's do you remember I don't know if you ever watched it, the Disney spin-off Loki, where I think can't remember what the time agent says to Loki, but he basically goes, yeah, very sad. Anyway, like, it's like if you do badly, everyone's like, oh, it doesn't really matter. If you do really well, everyone's like, oh, great. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's that whole thing of like, it doesn't really matter that much. Like, the people who care the most about your performance are you. So it's getting people who are at a lower level where like they're just going to purely for an enjoyment to realise as long as you enjoy it, it literally doesn't matter. Whether you bomb out, whether you underperform, whether you get PBs, you get PRs, doesn't matter. Then the same for the people who are going for like, they're trying to get on an international squad. It's like, if you're not enjoying it, it literally doesn't matter. If you put too much pressure on yourself, it's like, it's all something that you're doing like intrinsically. So it's getting the people where it's not going to earn them a living. They're just doing it for enjoyment. They just enjoy not taking it too seriously. And for the lifters who want to go to a higher level, it is a lot of like basically like, you know, unofficial, like you're saying, being a bit of a therapist type of thing. It's getting them to not put too much pressure on themselves and try to enjoy it, because like, I mean, I'm sure you two all know, the people who seem to perform the best in a rugby locker room, in a football locker room, you almost, so the people who take it too seriously, it probably looks like they're joking around. They're not taking the sport seriously. Then you look and it's like, oh, they're enjoying themselves and they're staying relaxed until they need to switch on. And it's kind of doing the same thing. It's like, do you need to be pacing around your room for like every night before a competition, visualizing your lifts, when actually you could probably just relax, chill out, and then get to competition day and then switch on, knowing you've got that energy left? Like, that's kind of what it's more about. I feel like with team sports like football and rugby as well, you need to have a bit of intensity going into a game because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You've got a plan, but you need to be a bit more. You need to have a bit more adrenaline going. Whereas with weightlifting, it's like if you've been training solidly 12, 14, 16, however many weeks it's leading in, whatever's going to happen is pretty much set already. You're just going there to kind of see what you're going to get, knowing that it's already decided. You can't, like, stressing about it the week before isn't really going to do you that much. Like, you literally can't change what you can do now.
What?
Was there an aspect about team sports that you didn't like, that you prefer about what you're doing now, where it's just like the results are based on you and it's like, you know, the complexity of team sports is kind of like taken away and it's just like, you know, the results are based off whether you prepared or did not. There was nobody else to.
Before I would have said yeah, because there's been some teams that I've been on where we lost games or we didn't perform well based on the fact that some of us didn't get along with each other, because the team cultures in general was a bit shit, which is more down to the coaching really when I think back to it. Or it's just a case of some people weren't as good as others, which is more frustrating rather than disappointing, because if someone's just not that good but they're trying, you can't really have a go at them for it. I think initially the appeal for some people is like, oh, so it doesn't, because there's no one else on my team, it's literally just about my performance. It makes it a lot more measurable. You're responsible. But then after a while, I think you get to a point where you're like, oh, it is actually a bit lonely, and it's a bit like you're an island. Like it's very insular. And I think the bad part about team sports is you're depending on other people. So you have to depend on people like you. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know how much effort they're going to put in. But then the good part about it is you have other people to share the load with. And also, like, if let's say, I don't know, like using like a life example, like if you've got to do your own taxes, like you've got to fill them in all your stuff, you've got to pay them at the end of the year, you will happily leave it. Well, I will. You will leave it till the day before, knowing you've probably got it wrong, and send it off anyway. Whereas if your friend, like, if one of you phones each other up, like if Cooper goes, Jay, mate, I don't know what I'm doing with my taxes, can you help me out? You'll be up a month before, double, triple checking all of it to try and make sure it's done, because you don't want him to get in trouble. And it's the same kind of thing with team sports. Like, you'll probably try that harder if you're playing with really good people that you actually want to help out. Like what every great running back and fullback partnership seems to be, they're really good mates and they want to stick up for each other. So then they run through a bit more for each other. But for them, if it was just about them, are they going to try as hard? Like what's Terrell always say? It's that famous clip where he says, "I love me some me." Not many people love themselves that much. They'll try harder for themselves than they do for anyone else. Most people, it's a case of, for people they respect and they like on the team, they'll try harder for them than they will for themselves. I think that's the great part about team sports. And with weightlifting, it's kind of hard to come by that, if I'm honest. Like, because it's such an individual sport, people get into it because they can be individual. So then getting them to then have like a team culture with other people is sometimes difficult, but it can be done. And I think that's what I try to get people to do, or I've tried to do more so now, is try to bring some sort of aspect of like team culture into some of the people that I coach so that they get around each other a bit more, because they always do better competitions if they know their friends, they're helping them out, or vice versa if they're helping their friends out.
So does weightlifting get into the team side? Like, do you guys form teams in the weightlifting thing? Like, I don't know much about like competitive weightlifting.
So probably be a bit like track and field. Like if you have track and field at high school or college or like a pro level, then you'll have it where you compete individually, but usually there's a team aspect of points, and also you go to represent your club or your college or your high school or whatever it is. It's the same in England. Like you can lift as an individual, unattached or unaffiliated, they call it, or you can lift for a club. So most clubs now will have a team singlet or flight suit that you put on. You'll have like team gear and stuff. Most teams who are well established will try to sign up to competitions together. So it'll be you lifting, but then it will say you're from so and so barbell club. And some places, which is in Germany, they have something called Bundesliga, weightlifting Bundesliga. I think they have League 1 and 2, and that's similar. You lift individually, but your totals get put into a pot to make a team total, and then whoever does the best collectively as a team, I think you have 4 or 5 on each team, then wins. And that's one of the examples where it is still an individual sport, but your efforts get collected together for a team. And I think that's a better way to do it, because then everyone doesn't need to have a day where they PB or PR everything. You just need to have a good consistent performance, and you need to be smart about what you lift. And I think having both individual and team is important. It's like having 100 meters just for individuals, then having the relay. Like it's kind of like that. Like you have your individual competitions, then you have your team competitions to a degree.
So so you're also doing online too, on top of working in person with people. Now with like the weightlifting stuff, how are you getting people to understand, like we said earlier, like there is complexities to like these lifts that we're doing. How are you getting people online to understand them, and how are you assessing them and like addressing or giving cues to those little things that they're missing on?
I think one of the things is making sure people understand that because you're not there in person, the coaching process is a bit different. It's almost like doing homework, I suppose. Like, because your teacher's not there standing with you, telling you how to do stuff, like every time you write something or do something, you go and you try it, you bring it back. They go, this was good, here's the corrections, go try it again. It's kind of like that. So we'll use an app called Tree Coach, which I think most people are pretty familiar with by now. It's the one that a lot of coaches I know use. So all your exercise, your programming goes into there. There's demo videos, there's instructions, and then a combination of text feedback. Sometimes we'll video call people for consults, and then it's an app called Loom where you screen record stuff to explain things. So it's sending them drills, prescribing better exercises, and different primers they can use, making sure they're accessory work and their bodybuilding stuff's right to make them understand it. And then it's just being a bit creative with how you prescribe exercises to be able to fix certain issues. Because I suppose it's the same thing as like there'll always be a drill for even sports skills. So like where you're like kicking a ball, you're trying to be able to throw, like if you're trying to like touch pass versus deep pass, there's always a drill you can do which just gives you a good feel for it. So instead of someone having to explain to you step by step how to do it, they can just go, do this drill and try and do this. And then for some reason it like connects quite well. Like when we're in rugby, you have to like throw in at the line out. It's like the only time you basically throw overhead like this. And one of the drills they used to give us was just lay backwards on a bench or a Swiss ball. And you just have to throw upwards and try and hit a spot on a roof. Or you have to go on your knees, tall kneeling, and throw it to basically teach you don't throw your legs, actually be accurate and like try and launch it using your abs and your arms. But that, for me, instead of someone saying just throw it straight, stop trying to use your leg and trying to launch it like it's a shot put or something. Just doing that, just take your legs away and just try to be a bit more pinpoint accurate. Then that fixed it for me immediately. It's the same thing with weightlifting. If someone's not finishing their pull, they won't drop under a snatch fast, giving them high hang snatches, not letting them move their feet or getting to do it from blocks. That immediately just goes, oh, you're giving me something that's constraining me, so I have to figure it out. And I think in some ways, some people just need in-person coaching. Like some people just don't do well with online. Some people will do better with a combination. I think with some people, having the autonomy to be given drills and be given exercise and programs, and there's a degree of you need to go and try this and figure it out, is more helpful because it gives them some ownership over their training process. Because what you don't want is for someone to miss a lift and every time they miss it or they don't do well, they look at you like this and they always go, they do a rep and they go, well, was that good? And they look at you straight away. Like you want someone to be able to know if they've done something good or not. So I think that's what online works very well. So we do text feedback, video feedback, smart exercise prescription, and yeah, just trying to make sure the programs are as enjoyable as possible.
How about you say you guys use like a lot of exercises to kind of just like build context? for certain drills or certain exercises, or obviously like for a bigger exercise, like I guess of a power clean, you use smaller exercises or accessories to build context. Are there any like cues that you may use, like either in person or online, like some of your bigger cues you may use for like either a jerk or like a power clean or et cetera, that you feel like usually kind of bring everything together for context?
Yeah, there's a couple that I would use that usually tends to make the most sense. I think most people we have, it's very rare we get someone who's never played another sport, like ever. So you can usually use context from their sport. So most people understand what it's like to punch or throw something. They'll understand what it's like to jump. They'll understand what it's like to drop into a squat and things like that. So it usually becomes easier to use those as reference points. I still stand by the best way to teach someone to pass that to a power clean is show the called Joe Ken. I feel like that's a bit of like a throwback now because he's not as out there as he used to be, maybe for a lot of younger people. But he had a PDF which is just it showed people how to power slash and power clean. And I think it basically starts off. He just goes, just treat it like it's a leg press off the floor, jump as hard as you can, and then either punch it behind your ears or punch your elbows through. Just push, jump, and punch. That's what I'll usually start people off with. It's just like push the floor away. Once it gets above your knees, jump as hard as you can, and then either punch your elbows through if it's a clean, or punch overhead if it's a snatch. So giving people movements where like they kind of understand and have a visual of what those movements look and should feel like, and the intent's right, we usually do it. Same thing if you've got guys where like they're really tense, they want to muscle clean everything, telling them to jump and then relax and sit down, like when they're doing a clean or a snatch, tends to work as well because they stop fighting the way they let it push them down. There's lots of different cues you can use for it. With split jerks, like trying to drive and then step into your splits instead of jumping and doing like a big jumping jack and flicking your feet out. Telling them to like jump and then step the back foot, step the front foot, so jump and step can work as well. There's lots of like different general cues I'll start with based on, and they'll change based on either what someone does when you tell them the cue or what sport they've done beforehand. Because if someone's done like wrestling or they've done dance or they've done gymnastics, the cues and the way they understand movement will change. So you might as well use the language they're familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, so you're working also alongside that with other athletes, like so athletes that are still playing rugby or playing soccer and all that stuff too. Now, there's all like lately, you've seen a lot of like move away from doing the power cleans or doing just a full power clean or doing the full jerk or anything like that. How have you implemented that? Are you still teaching people to do the full thing, or like are you breaking it down into pieces? And how is this working together with their sport?
So that last bit, and you cut out just before you said better at their sport.
So how is it working together with their sport?
I'd say with weightlifting, it really depends on who it is. So I think with a lot of sports, if you don't like weightlifting, like in your training program, there are other things that you can do. I think if people are open to using weightlifting as movements, it just gives you more tools, and I think that it gives you another chance to try to produce and accept force in another context where like the loading's slightly different. So like doing a heavy back squat, you'll still have to accept the force on top of you, absorb it, resist it, and then produce force against it. A snatch and a clean and jerk, and then let's say like a back squat and a sprint. If you put them all on the line, the back squat is obviously like like a heavy deadlift, like the heaviest and the slowest. Then if you've got like plyometrics, then you've got sprinting. Snatches and clean jerks kind of probably hang out somewhere between a heavy squat and then like some pliers like box jumps and stuff. So it's teaching you to produce and resist. It's teaching you to resist force and produce force at somewhat of a high speed. So for contact sports, I think is applicable because it kind of lets you practice a little bit of what you're doing on a field against other people, but in a more controlled setting. I think just giving people different tools to be able to practice producing and accepting force just in slightly different contexts is important, because the more movement variations you have to be able to teach someone to do the same thing or to teach someone to do like the same quality is going to be important, because it just gives you more tools to do the same thing. So you don't just use, if you're playing like soccer, you don't do the same touch pass with the inside of your foot every time. You have different angles you can hit the ball at. You can like chip it over someone. There's different ways you can put speed on a ball, put curve on it. Same with that pass in an American football. You're not just going to do a bullet pass and just hit it at someone's chest every time. Sometimes it's going to need to be curved around. Sometimes you're going to lob over the top. You might do a little like a little shovel pass, like pass it like down the line. You've got different tools to achieve the same goal. I think weightlifting is just one of those. Like you're just trying to use it as a tool to help them get better, and it's also like a case of it just feels quite satisfying to do. So if it makes people get more invested in the training process because they like doing power snatch, power clean, or they just really like push presses and jerks, then I think throw it in there. Because if it makes them more invested in the training process, they're going to get more out of it. Because the worst thing is if you have a training program that looks really good on paper, but then people just don't enjoy doing it. And then you have guys come in and they passively go through the training process. They don't want to be there. And then it just makes their gym time just not very, it makes it feel not very productive, because they feel, I've got to be here and I don't know what I'm getting out of this. Whereas if they really like doing some Olympic lifts and some like pliers, some throws, and the training program they're doing, then it's going to make them feel better because they enjoy it. And if they enjoy it, they'll probably get more out of it. That training then feeds back into sport, makes them feel more capable. I think that's what it's about. Like, I don't think you have to use weightlifting movements, but I think if you can, and people like doing it, you might as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then on top of that, now like you've been in other gym, you've been at other places, you started your own stuff, and now you're about to open your own place, like potentially like have your own location. What was the process like to getting there, and how much groundwork are you like did you have to put in to get to the point to like potentially open up your own place?
So it really varies. So there's some people where they'll look at starting completely from scratch. So getting a fresh building, renting a new centre is completely blank. You got to buy all the kits to put in, and you start advertising. I've opened one gym. It's a gym that still functions. Like, they're still doing very well. A gym called Khrys Strength in Till. And I think I want to say they've got a second site in Cambridgeshire now, where me and one of my old friends opened it together. And that was one of the ones where it just so happened that the rent was really cheap, and we were looking to move on from the gym we worked at the time. So it just worked out really well on coincidence. The second gym that we had, which was a temporary fix after COVID and all the lockdowns here, was on a military base. So they gave us a short-term lease just to kind of tide us over. This one that we're potentially going to get is a gym that someone else has been running, and they've basically just gone, the gym's great, but we're moving. We're moving out of the country. We don't want to be here no more. So then looking to take that over to be able to improve upon it and be able to put our touch on it is what we're kind of looking to do. So I wouldn't say there's a set way to like look at opening a gym, and the groundwork will be different every time. So obviously the groundwork of opening up a fresh place, it's a unit that no one's been using. There's no business there. Let's say you go into a completely new city is different from, let's say, taking over a gym that already exists, which is kind of what we're going to look to do, which is probably, there's less groundwork because a lot of the groundwork in terms of signing leases, making sure the legal documents are right to run the gym has already been done. You just need to go in and sniff around, make sure that there's no hidden stuff that you're buying into you don't know about. So hopefully in a couple of months we'll be able to have a new gym and be able to start servicing some more people in person.
What made you want to do that? Like, why get your own place? Why not just, operate out of somebody else's place, pay rent there, or something like why your own spot? Because it can be a lot, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that you got to cover. You got to be there a good amount of time, right? You got to get all the insurance and all that stuff, people to sign liability waivers, trying to figure out like how much clientele you need to, keep the doors open, Wi-Fi. Oh, there's so much stuff that you got to worry about. Like, why not just rent a space and kind of work out of that?
I would say because I've done that before, and this was, to be fair, this is when I was just starting to get to more weightlifting and it wasn't as popular, so it made more sense to have your own place because you can do more of what you want to do. So before, it's from convenience. I can't really coach weightlifting in the gym that I'm at because that's not what they service. I'm having to buy a lot of my own kit to do it anyway to store it at the gym, so I might as well get my own place for cheap enough. And then the second time around is because in order to service more people, there wasn't anywhere, again, near us in East London where we were at that had weightlifting equipment available. And then as we started to build up online, we just realised, well, we have a fairly good relationship with a lot of different gyms where we can get people at cheaper memberships or cheap day passes. And when we had to close the gym that was in East London because the lease ran out, it was sad, but no one didn't have anywhere to train. Literally everyone had a group of like Ronin Strength lifters of their friends that you go and train with in different gyms. The overarching like actual mission of having Ronin was to try and make weightlifting and good training more accessible. So in London, where we are, everyone has somewhere to train. Everyone has friends to train with for the most part. Whereas outside of London, which is where we look to open a gym, we're looking at another spot where it's like, well, where do we have people or where do we have members where they just don't have access to good training facilities and a good training environment? So then it's looking at basically trying to take your try to take the mission statement and do it somewhere else, to keep trying to leave somewhere else a little bit better than what it was before. And online we've managed to do it. In person is the next one because realistically, even though we're people, is to have a combination of in person and online. And if it works out cost wise, which this place would, then that's why we would do it. Because you're right, the costs and stuff of all the liability, all the waivers, all the rent, all the leases, it does add up. But in London, it's like just silly money that you're looking at. Whereas outside of London, you have less places available for you to train at, less cost. So then it makes sense to go and try something out there. And also just doing the same thing all the time online, I just get bored because I'm sat here on my laptop by myself all the time. I start to go insane. So having like somewhere where I actually get to see people every day, and I have to go somewhere will be a welcome change. It'll be a good stress.
No, that's awesome. This is like we see in the States.
I think I know that it changes state to state. So I know that like one of my friends he moved across there from here, and I think he moved. Where did he move? I think it was like I can't remember where he moved to. It was between two different states, and depending on what state he went to, was going to decide whether he opened his own gym or went somewhere else because of the tax laws, because of like real estate costs. So I think it's like in America, it seems more depending on what state you go to. The bigger you go, the more you're rewarded in terms of like how much you'll get taxed and the costs. Because it's almost like if you're willing to take a bigger risk, we'll give you a bigger reward and we won't tax you as hard because then you'll be able to create more jobs, create more infrastructure. Whereas in England, I mean, one of my friends recently, he went all online and moved to Bali. Well, he went on Bali for holiday and then realised, oh, I can buy land here. Actually, I can register my business here. Then he looked at the costs there compared to England, just went, bro, why do I live here? This is ridiculous. It's like here, it feels like as you start to get to a degree, as you start to do better and better, the costs get higher and higher and higher and higher, and not just like in absolute terms, like even as a percentage. It feels like the money you make here and the percentage they take slowly it does this. Like you can't outrun the costs. Whereas I think maybe in America it's a bit different, or in some countries it's a bit different. That's why you see so many people moving. So I think it's difficult to build bigger performance places, but it can be done. You just have to have, I think there has to be a commercial arm to it, and you have to be smart with how you distribute your money. It makes it difficult, but it's not undoable. But I agree with you. I don't think it's as easy as what it is in the States. I think it is more difficult.
Yeah, I think the one thing that makes it difficult too is like how you always how you were just saying, but like the academy and club culture in Europe, it's just like it would have to be oriented towards commercial.
Yeah,
Because in America, you go like just like where Coop was working out. Where was that? A D1 or like or any facility that's more so geared towards athletes.
yeah. Well, yeah, and you see as well, like especially with like European football, like soccer, you'll see it where like strength and conditioning is still frowned upon a little bit. So you'd even see it where one of well, I'm not going to say who it is, so I don't want to get him in trouble. He trained some people from a very successful Premier League football club, and they won't let him post or talk about the players he coaches because they don't want it to be seen that they're going to the gym because they don't like gym and strength training. Then because those players' injury rates have gone down and they're performing better, they also don't want him to talk about it because then it makes the club look bad because they don't want them to have external strength and conditioning coaches. And I think it's a case of with the academy system as well. Like with America, I think it's always a case of in America, at least from what I've seen in sport, it's a case of, well, if you can do a bit more and you can do a bit better, well, we should just do it. So if you can go to a performance center in off season, well, you should probably do it. If you can train a bit more and you can recover better, well, you should probably just go do it if there's a place for it. So it's always like being proactive, be like, well, we can do more. So why would we not do it more? We can do it better. Why would we do it better? Whereas I think some places here in some sports, it's always a case of, well, this is good enough. You could go to the gym and get better. Well, why do I want to do that? Like I'm playing fine, so why would I go do anything else in off season? I don't want to do that. Like it's a case of I think it's because there's different levels to sport in England. Like in America, I think like I know NBA has is it called D League or is it G League? I can't remember what it's called. There's a development league below NBA. I think it's called
The
D League.
G League, yeah.
G League, that's it. I can never remember what it's called. So I know that NFL years ago used to have NFL Europe, and they used to use that as their G League. But in England, you have basically with rugby, you have Premiership, Championship, National 1, National 2, National 3. Those are your professional leagues. You have 5 professional leagues where you get paid a little bit less and it gets a little bit lower in standard and more accessible the lower you go down. But then below those, you've got probably another 6 or 7 steps of like different leagues you can play in. Whereas in America, it's like after you get out of college, you're either playing in a weird like amateur league for football in your state, which probably isn't that big of a deal, or you're playing the NFL. Or you go to Europe. Do you know what I mean? It's always professional. And I think the fact that it has to be professional if you want to carry on when you're an adult, like it makes it so that those performance centers are pretty important. Because it's like, if I'm gonna be playing when I'm an adult, I've got to put everything in here. Whereas in England, which I think is good and bad, if you want to train 2 days a week, you don't really want to be traveling that much, but you still want to play decent standards of football and rugby. You can pick a team, you can pick a level for that. Whereas America's literally go pro or bust. What do you want to do? Do you know what I mean? Which I think is why the performance centers do better there, because it's literally go big or go home. Whereas in England, it's kind of like I want to go like medium big, not big big. I want to go medium big. So what's the league for that? Step 3, League 1. Yeah, I'll go play League 1, which I think is great because it's like not everyone wants to be training 3 days a week, doing what Jay was talking about, like strapping your adductor up. Because I've done the same thing. Because I've got a game on the weekend, it's like, well, my MCL's pretty busted, but I'm gonna put some tape around it and hope for the best. Like, not everyone wants to do that. They want to be able to kind of have a nicer time, but still be a semi-pro athlete. And I think England kind of lets you do that, whereas America absolutely doesn't. Like it's you're going to be pro or you're off, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also helping athletes.
One of my friends does some stuff, and what was the example he gave me? So imagine, this is a Premier League football player. They were like starting for a Premier League team. They couldn't trap bar deadlift an empty trap bar off the floor. Like they couldn't get it off the floor. But when they did like a depth jump, like a depth drop jump, they were jumping like 35 inches. So imagine like that deficit of like strength to elasticity.
Yeah.
Yes. No one saw that as being a problem. And then they were always like, yeah, like my knees hurt a lot. I get like ankle problems. It's because like you're literally jumping off of like, like dreams and your bones. Like you're not using any muscles whatsoever. Maybe we should fix that. But that's the level.
It's
the level
dreams in the ball.
Like,
Dreams in the ball.
Dreams, like it's like you don't have any muscles. Like you can't pick up a trap off the floor. That's like if you had like, I don't know, if you had like a box of like, if you just had like a box of like, soda on the floor and they can't pick it up. Like that's like the extreme I'm thinking of. It's like you literally can't pick up like a household item off the floor, but you can jump higher than anyone I've ever seen, and you can play a professional sport. It's like, I know that you don't have to be super strong to play all sports, but come on, there's got to be. That's like too far in the other direction. I think strength and conditioning isn't super important for everyone. Like I know Allen Iverson and a load of different NBA players just never really went to the gym because they already had it, quite unquote. They already had whatever they needed. But I think, especially in England, some people need to go into the gym and pump some iron a little bit.
So then, how working alongside with the teams?
I think with the teams it's difficult. I think you need to a degree, if you want to work for a team, you have to play the game a little bit because there's always going to be that coach who will want to be really reasonable, want to work the S&C coach, but when the lads have played bad on a weekend and you've not tackled well, he's just going to make you run suicides on Monday. Like that's going to be the attitude. It's going to be very emotional coaching. So it's going to be partially trying to work with them to see what you can get, to almost like compromise a little bit, or you work externally. There's a guy called Austin Yoakum. He runs Yoakum Strength. He talks a lot about this as he's worked in the professional sector in America and now he does stuff independently, but he won't do it how like, what you were talking about Rory, where he'll work with people individually. He does what Rory does more now, where you have a training group. So you have people who will come in and train together and he'll get them to do strength and conditioning that way. And I think it's becoming more relatable to the athletes because we're all like relatively young in the grand scheme of things. We still play. If people know that you still play the sport, you're still connected to it, you understand it, and you can relate and be like, oh, this is the kind of stuff that I know. I found it really helpful when I had this injury, or I found this really helpful when I was struggling to get bigger, or this is how I found strength training helped me. I think you should do this as well. If you can make yourself more relatable to them and you can make them enjoy training more, it's about the players at the end of the day. So if the players overwhelm you like, this helps me, I want to do this, at some point coaches are going to go, well, we should probably involve that at some stage because they're getting better. And it's also a case of if you're working privately and all the players, let's say you have 5 players from one team and they all get better, they're all enjoying training, they're all healthy, they don't get injured, they go to practices in their team and they're just smashing everyone up, they never seem to get injured, they really like training, then at some point a coach is going to go, a good coach will go, well, I should probably pay attention. I'd probably talk to their coach and see what he's doing and see if I can get him to do it for everyone else. Because really, that's what happens with like, I know you're saying, I can't remember if you said you've had Rory on if you're going to have him on, but watching him when I met him just after lockdown to now, he started off with like 1 or 2 fighters. Some of them be boxers, they come in the morning. Some of them would be like, trying to get into the UFC through MMA. And now, if you go to one of the days when he has people in, the gym is literally heaving with like professional fighters. And all of them are enjoying training. They all want to train together. Like they're all trying to like bet on like who can trap by deadlift more. They're all trying to see who can jump the furthest, and they all enjoy it. And because of that, and it's a bit different because it's an individual sport, you now get more people going like, oh well, they're all training with Rory. They're all stronger. I want to go back and see what they're doing. Oh, that person's come back from injury well fast. Are they training with Rory? I want to go see what they're doing. I'm going to go train with them as well. I'm not missing out. So it's almost getting enough people to buy into it, maybe outside of the institution. So then it's almost like the other players get fear of missing out. They're like, oh well, I don't want to miss out on that. I want to get involved. I don't want to be weak. I've just got to run up by another one of Coop's players. Oh, one of Jay's players has run past me again. Like, oh no, I'm not having that. I'm going to go and see what their training's like. I'm going to go join them. Like that's, I think, where it comes from. Because getting into institutions, you have to have like a proof of product first, and then they'll hire you in afterwards. For the most part, I think. And sometimes it's easier to work outside of the institution and influence the people who matter, which is the actual players.
I definitely think that work outside privately, and then their players are coming to you. Then okay, we'll send you more players, but they don't want you to recruit to help other players go other places. It's a nasty world, right? When you're just trying to help athletes become better athletes. And we have nothing to do with recruiting or sending people to whatever club they're going to, or even like a fighter going to a different boxing club or a weightlifter that's going to a different place to lift. Like we don't have anything to do with that. All we're trying to do is make them better at what they came to us for. So it's crazy to think that like people like just won't allow their athletes to go work with you and become better and like actually buy into what like how important the strength and conditioning side is to sports. But it's also good to hear from somebody on the other side. Because again, Jay and I are coming from America, right? So we're so used to like just the buy-in all the time. Like you've got to do weightlifting, like in order to be good at sports. Like you've got to do the strength and conditioning, you got to do the plyometrics, all that stuff in order to be good at whatever you're trying to do. And it's implemented in the high school level, then in college. And if you want to go pro and you want to go work somewhere else, cool, you can do that. But just being over here, it's different. Like we're again, trying to navigate and figure out how do we continue to expand and make this thing better and continue to help athletes, you know, and coaches find a way through. So on top of that, where is Khrys, you know, in the 5 to 10 years?
Oh, what did you say after where is Khrys? It froze up again. I think it's my computer.
Where is Khrys in 5 to 10 years?
Where is Khrys in 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. I would hope if I've not completely snapped myself up, I'll still be competing in a sport. The brand of Ronin will have more coaches who are able to work full time with a combination of online and in person in a sustainable fashion. Because one of the things I wanted was for coaches, if they want to coach till they're 50, then they can. Whereas I'm sure you two can see it, like it feels like if you're not running a team, it's like, you know, you're a director of performance at like a rugby club or a football club. It feels like a young person's game to coach. I'd like it to get to a point where anyone who works with us, if they want to, they can stay for 10, 15 years, know that they're going to be able to sustainably work and love what they're doing. And then hopefully this gym that we're hopefully going to open will be able to make that successful, leave someone to run it and have it be like more their thing and then move on and do it again. So just hopefully just be able to influence more people to be able to work in sport and actually make it so it's like, well, no, I can actually make a good living off of this. I can love my job and retire off of it. So hopefully by that point, we will be closer to being able to do that for more people.
It's almost like an entrepreneur in the strength and conditioning world. Kind of opening somewhere and then leaving it for somebody else to run, which is phenomenal because again, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help other coaches find a network and get to those places that they want to go to and continue to coach and expand the level of coaching over here to the point where it's elite across the board. So no matter if they're going to Khrys, they're going to Jay, they're going to me, they're going to Rory, they're going to Sam, they're going to all of these people over here in Europe, they're getting quality coaching. And I think that's a huge thing to have a person like you come on and hear like everything you're doing with just, you know, the Olympic lifting side of things, even working with athletes is how you're breaking things down and explaining it, giving the cues and getting people to understand and buy into what you're doing is super important and super impressive. So just want to give you your flowers on that, bro, and say like, we're proud of you and we love what you're doing and can keep up the good work. But now we're going to get into our 90-second round of one-word answers, right? You got 10 questions. It's one-word answers.
It's one-word answers.
Anything across the board. Are you ready?
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's go.
Here we go. Favorite post-workout snack?
Snickers bar.
Best workout facility you've ever been to?
That's difficult. Velocity Sports Performance in New Orleans. It was like 10 years ago. I still think that place was sick.
Favorite rugby team?
Northampton Saints.
Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Favorite vacation spot?
I actually don't know. Pass. I actually don't know. Probably Spain.
All right.
Your best recovery tool?
Sleep. Best athlete I ever trained. Outside of weightlifting, a guy called Nicholas Boyer plays rugby in the States. I think he still plays in the States.
Which sport has tougher athletes, American football or rugby?
American football or rugby?
American football. NFL. He's had that NFL. Especially like old
I love it.
NFL. Brian Dawkins, Ed Reed, that kind of area.
Brian Dawkins.
Oh,
Them boys was
you can't
nasty
tell
out
me
there.
anyone's
Nasty out there.
got more screws loose than him. I won't have it. Yeah, NFL.
All right. Would you rather work with a brand new athlete that knows nothing or an advanced athlete that needs very little guidance?
Brand new. There's more chat. There's more stuff to do there. Brand new athlete who doesn't know anything yet.
What is your biggest flaw as a coach?
Assuming everyone picks up things as fast as I do, because I picked up the sport really fast, so I assume other people will as well. And then when they're just like, "Oh, dude, this is really hard," I'm just like, "I don't." It took me a while to get over that, to understand that not every learning speed is different.
Here we go. Best coach in the industry.
Best coach in our industry. Best coach in the industry. That's difficult. That's very difficult. That's a hard question. My favourite coach at the moment, who would it be? Because of what he's done for S&C recently with Ply's, probably Matt Watson. That's my favourite at the moment. Because of what he's done for plyometrics to make it more accessible. That's probably my favourite at the moment.
Matt Watson.
That's the plus Piles guy.
Yeah, that's him. His Instagram name's like McInnes Watson.
Yeah, I love his stuff. Yeah.
Dope. Khrys, we appreciate you coming on, bro. Appreciate you taking out the time, bro. Appreciate you taking out the time. Man, keep doing what you're doing, and it's been great work. When we get over there to see Rory and Sam, we're definitely stopping by to see you too. Hopefully by then you've got the new place opened up, and we'll jump in and we'll host another podcast, and then we'll see how everything is going in the future.
Clean up my power clean technique.
Yeah, man, you ain't got to worry about me doing no power cleans. I ain't doing it.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate that.
For sure.
No, appreciate you joining.
For sure.